Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Tracy, the Eternal Étudiante, and today I wanted to just kind of give my origin story. Why did I start a nonprofit? Why am I going back for a doctorate in business administration? Why am I continuously a student? And why is mental health so non-negotiable anymore? The topics today are going to touch on some things that might be difficult to hear, just like trauma, mental health crisis, things like that. So if you're sensitive, please feel free to skip this or, just do whatever you need to take care of yourself. I don't want it to come as a surprise, but we're going to get kind of into some dark topics, trauma, with hospitalization and mental health. So it's not going to be like too overwhelming. It's just kind of scratching the surface. I don't want to go like super deep in trauma dumping or anything like that. So, but just a heads up. Now, let's get into it. Actor, director, podcaster Kevin Smith, then you've heard him describe his life as BC before Clerks, which was his huge movie, and AD after Dante. Dante being the main character in that film. And for me, I've done it the same way, which is BC before crisis and AD after discharge. 2022 was the year that seriously broke me. It started off in March, where I was diagnosed with autism at the age of 32. There was a lot of grief and everything that goes into that. I might do a video just on that. Then that same month, the defamation case brought against me by my assaulter was thankfully dismissed, but that was a lot of stress that happened over the course of 2 years it was. And the court case didn't last 2 years, but the threat of it happening was 2 years. So thankfully that was dismissed. Then I graduated with my global Master's of Business Administration, which was yay me, awesome, but also left this feeling of what do I do now? Now I have all this time. What can I make of this? Am I going to be a failure? How do I just go about life now? Then I went on a trip with my mom to celebrate said global MBA, and on the last day, my now ex broke up with me via a very angry text. We were together for about 10 years. It came as a total shock, total just like out of nowhere for me. That happened. Then, let's see, I'm trying to go by the months that all of this went down. August, I decided to step away from someone who I considered my best friend because I was feeling replaced by someone else in her life, and I just wasn't emotionally equipped. And I wouldn't say mature, but it's kind of mature to handle that. I had my own limiting beliefs and all the stories I was telling myself of I didn't matter, she didn't care, it was all my fault, I'm too much. You probably relate in some way or shape or form. So I decided to step away from that friendship, which was really, really difficult. Then in September, one of my other best friends lost her mom to COVID, and I took an unexpected trip to Colorado to be with her for a week. At the same time, just about, my job had a security breach. So there goes my routine of everything being like, this is where I can count on things being structured and knowing what to do. That's out of the window now as we try and set up a new system and the way that we're doing things. I come back from Colorado. My mom has knee surgery on her first knee. It's difficult to try and take care of her. I am not a caretaker at heart. God bless those who are. But then I caught COVID at a wedding. I then give it to her because we live together. She thought she was dying, called 911. They can't really do anything for her. It's just like, write it out, because do you want to do it here or do you want to do it at the hospital? Probably not at the hospital. So then come December, and it's said ex's friend's birthday. And I text her because I'm like, maybe this is my way to reconnect. Maybe she's been missing me as much as I've been missing her. Maybe she's going to be like, yeah, let's be friends again and, forget that person who was replacing you, sort of thing. And so I texted her happy birthday. And all she said was thank you with a smiley face. Now, to anybody else, that is a completely normal response. It's completely like just natural and normal and kind. She didn't have to say anything. But to me, at that moment, after all the things that had led up in this year, where it was just one thing after another and I could not process fast enough, it was the last straw. I knew I needed to get some serious help if I was going to make it and if I was going to continue to walk this earth. And in typical autistic fashion, I would say I deep dove into everything I could learn about a psychiatric hospital stay. I called my friend who had spent 2 stays in the hospital, one here locally and then one out in California. She kind of gave me the rundown of what to expect. And so I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can go through this, because if not, consequences are pretty dire. So on Friday, I went home early from work because, and by this point, I should have noticed that something was way, way off. I was getting far more agitated easily. I was crying at the, drop of a hat, just other things that now I can look at and recognize when an impending crisis is coming. But then I didn't have that knowledge. So that night, I would have gone to the hospital, but my dad had gotten Mannheim steamroller tickets, and it's been something that's been on our bucket list for goodness knows how long. And I wasn't going to miss that opportunity with my dad. And so on the way to the concert, I knew it was just like, this is the last moment of kind of happiness I get, because tomorrow everything is changing. I'm scared. I don't know what that is going to look like. And just it was a really, like, oh my gosh, an emotional trip. And then the music, of course, is just, music is so good. But next day, I have my mom take me to the hospital. Everywhere is full, pretty much, like a couple of facilities. We don't have very many around here, unfortunately. One is being built, which it's very promising. I have high hopes for it. But until then, the options are pretty minimal. And so we went there knowing that they're already full. We get to the ER. My mom checks me in, because at this point, I just can't understand language. I can't comprehend what people are saying. I don't know what to say. Like, my brain has literally shut down like a computer, and it doesn't reboot or come back online for a couple of days. It's a scary, scary feeling. A nurse calls me back. I go. My mom waits out in the waiting room, and she asks me questions, weighs me, everything. And one of them is, like, are you actively da da da? And I said yes. And she asks, do you have a plan or this and that? And I'm like, yes. So she goes, okay, we will, admit you. And she takes me to the locked portion of the ER, where that is where the psychiatric people are being held. Walking past too many people just like hanging out in the halls. There's not enough room in the ER for, the physically ill sick patients. And it's such a sad just image. But we get behind the locked doors of the ER, where I sit and I wait. I still have my phone, so I'm texting my mom kind of updates of just like, hey, I'm sitting here. There's a guy pacing in the hall in a gown. He's kind of talking to himself. And what was really sad is that most of the people that were there were not in a mental health crisis like me. They were people who were coming down from a drug high. There was one guy who had just come to the hospital seeking refills on his bipolar medication, and for some reason they kept him. I don't know. Then there was another guy, this guy who was pacing the hallway. Well, no wonder he was pretty agitated, because a judge required him to be kept there, but he was pretty with it. So I don't know why they had the psychiatric hold and why he was down at the ER. I know why, because they didn't have any beds, but I don't quite know why he was like committed. The sad part was, or the infuriating part that I felt for him, was that nobody was giving him any answers. Nobody was giving any of us any answers, like the guy who came in for his bipolar medication or this guy. And they just treated us like we were animals. And When I say they are lacking trauma-informed care in the ER, they are lacking trauma-informed care in the ER. They are there to keep you safe from physical harm, from hurting yourself, from hurting others. That's it. They treat you like they're better than you, that you don't know anything, and you just need to keep your head down, don't ask questions, don't rock the boat. And it was really kind of sad. I was told that because there were no available beds in the psychiatric unit, that it was going to be a couple of days before I could, get up there. And I knew that if I left, it just wasn't going to be good. I felt compelled that I had to stay. This is where I'm supposed to be. Now, do I regret that? Yes. And I'm glad that I did stay because it is what I needed, but it also could have been really helpful had I not been there and maybe got help from another place or something, because that in and of itself was very, very traumatic. Coming out of that, and I do have my journal here where I documented a bit of my stay. I didn't document it fully because I didn't go back, but I wanted to read those excerpts here in a little bit. So, coming out of the hospital, after spending 51 hours in the ER, I got moved to the psychiatric observation unit, which is the step before you get admitted to the psych ward. And there I spent the night. By then, I had been in solitary confinement in the ER for 51 hours, doing nothing but crying, being alone, doing all the therapy and processing I ever could wish. And by the time that I got to the observation unit, I was good. I was ready to go. I was ready to be home, relax, and just be in my own space. One thing I remember, I had contact with my mom throughout this. She came to visit a couple times, which thank goodness she did. And when I got to the observation unit, my therapist had called because my mom had been keeping her informed. And I told her, because just a couple of days prior, she asked, well, what do you think, your mom would do if she lost you? And I said, she'll get over it. Like everybody, they'll be fine. And she looked at me so sincerely, and I'll never forget it. And she said, as a mother, she would never get over it. And when I saw my mom's reaction in the hospital of when she had to leave me, I knew then that my therapist was absolutely right. My mom would never be okay. And so when I was talking on the phone with her in the observation unit, my therapist, and I told her that, and I was like, thank you, because I see it now. And if nothing else, I'm sticking around for my mom. So when my mom came and picked me up, she brought my favorite stuffed animal, which it's a cat stuffed animal because my favorite animal is a cat. And its name is Milo. She got it for me in Colorado on when her and my dad went skiing, and we were staying at my grandparents' house. And I was probably, 5 years old, maybe a little bit younger. And I've had this thing. It's been through a dog tearing it up, and she's been stitched together. And she brought her with her to pick me up. And I just remember on the way home just hugging it, crying, but also wondering, what happens now? I can't go back to the life I had. I can't go back to the way things were. I definitely can't go back to work right now. So what do I do? So that's kind of how the nonprofit came about. Now, it started as a support group on Facebook in late 2023 after I'd found the world of life coaching that seriously helped me in my recovery and recognize the stories I tell myself, rebuild my identity, determine what are non-negotiable, which is, mental health and catching it before it gets that bad again. And since then, it's grown to be what I wish I'd had when I left the hospital. It's providing free life coaching, which is what I went through after, my discharge, and finding the world of life coaching. It's everything that I went through, and that was so helpful for me. I want to give it back to other people, absolutely free of charge. It's peer support, so meeting in person, via Zoom, having the Facebook group, because you find there were all support groups for people who had lost someone, but not for those who chose life. And that was really kind of sad to me. And for those who had been hospitalized, it's such a unique, niche experience that I wanted to find other people who could relate and who knew what that was like. It is patient advocacy. So if someone goes into the ER, they can have someone come and be with them. That would have been so great, because they just stuck me in a room and that was it. They kept saying a doctor was going to come down and talk to me, and they did once the day of, and then was asking me what medications I'm on and whatnot, which I never even got the medications until I was discharged. So it's like there's so many more things we could do to be helping people feel valued and seen, and that they're not just, a nuisance to the ER staff or just to the world at large. And then the last thing, it slips my mind. There are like 4 things, and I should know these, but those are the big services that we offer. And I kind of want to be that one-stop shop, because when I was discharged from the ER, I was given a folder with, hospital branding on it. And then it was like these old copies of just a ton of phone numbers and company names. And I don't know who does what. I don't know where to start. I don't know, and being autistic and an introvert, I am terrified of the phone as well. And I would have to rehearse every single conversation that I'm about to have. So it was way too overwhelming. It was ugly to look at. And so I've developed, a couple of templates to hopefully help people know, okay, this company does this organization does that. Call this number if you're in crisis. Go to this place, and make it easy, and make it easy on the eyes as well. Make it fun, make it bright, make it colorful, make it not blah and dreary. So now I'd like to read a couple of journal entries I did shortly after my hospital stay. And bear with me, because my handwriting is atrocious, so it's not like I might tear up, I don't know. But if I stumble, it's because I literally can't read my handwriting. So this was December 26, 2022. It was on Monday at 3:55 p.m. This time 2 weeks ago, I was in the ER, waiting and hoping to be moved up to the Psychiatric Observation Unit, or the POU. I wish I had journaled about this sooner, when it was still more fresh in my mind, but my brain is tired and restless at the same time. It's hard to sit down and focus on anything for too long, and difficult to process through complicated things. Side note, I don't know why my hand is so jittery right now and won't slow down. There you go, see, that's why. This year has been very hard. There have been a lot of good moments, but also some heavy losses. Finishing my degree and breaking free of a studious study routine I've had the last 4 years, missing that experience and knowledge gain in my instructors. Then my ex breaking up with me, and then the loss of someone I considered my best friend and felt like we'd known each other far longer than just a year. My other friend losing her mom in September, the cyber crash at work in September, as well, that we are still working on getting back to normal from. It's been a lot. Oh, not to mention the dismissal of the defamation case against me and being diagnosed with autism earlier this year. It's a lot, and the week leading up to my decision to check into the hospital was horrible. I was completely out of control emotionally, couldn't stop crying randomly at work, even with the help of Xanax. I couldn't concentrate, couldn't pull myself together. When Mom took me on Saturday afternoon on the 10th to the hospital, my brain was done. I was ready to end it all. I had my plan in place. Luckily, I also had a plan in place to go to the hospital. I'm glad I had spoken with my friend about it to gain insight into her experiences with mental health hospitalization beforehand, even though it was nothing like mine. We got to the ER about 2:15, waited for maybe 20 minutes before I got called back. The nurse asked me why I was there, and I told her I was ready. Told her my plan and told her my plan to do it. You gotta be careful because YouTube shadow bans channels who talk about, who say the word. So we're just gonna kind of... She took me to another area of the ER locked off from the more medical part, and that was my home for the next 2 days. Mom was eventually allowed back with me to wait. There was a guy pacing the hall in a hospital gown, kind of verbally acting up, and another guy who was just chilling in a recliner. Made both of us nervous to the point Mom asked a couple of times if I was sure I wanted to do this. By then, my mind was made up, and I was committed. They searched the bag I packed, and Mom took everything I couldn't have home. A nurse came and took me to the bathroom, the only one in this area with no lock. Toilet was metal like something you'd see at an old rest stop, and an area for showering, no lock on the door. And in a pretty much only male patients there, which kind of sucked. I stripped down to my underwear and put on a gown. She took my clothes, which were given back to me with the other stuff I could have once I got up to the POU. I returned to sit with my mom again. Another nurse talked with us and said they didn't have room upstairs in the POU, so I'd be held in the ER till Monday. Mom again asked if I was sure. I said yes. Mom left around 5, and I got moved into a room about 15 minutes later. I was very lucky because the people who came in after me had nothing but the recliners or chairs in the hallway to stay and sleep in. I was very fortunate. If I didn't have the room, I wouldn't have made it. It was like a gurney with a mattress and sheet on it for a bed. There was a TV, thank God. Mom had to take my phone with her, but she'd bring it up for me to check if I wanted when she came to visit. Because I was on a hot Duolingo streak too, and I did not want to miss my Duolingo streak. I didn't realize when the nurse first took me in that the remote she was holding up and telling me about went to the TV. My brain for the next several days found processing what people were saying to me very difficult. It was hard to understand and for me to communicate in return. That night, I didn't get dinner. I found Family Guy on TV, cried a lot, got lost in my thoughts and feelings a lot, missed and wanted my mom a lot. Then later was exacerbated by two moms outside my door with their daughters and hearing them repeatedly say how being in this environment was making things worse and they thought she'd be getting help. They won't let her leave. It hit hard because I felt the same. Wondered if I made the right decision because I thought I'd have access to talk with social workers and group therapy. It was clear this was going to be more like solitary confinement. I didn't feel safe leaving my room and only begrudgingly went to the bathroom when I couldn't hold it anymore. I learned the sound of the toilet flushing and knew to know when hopefully I could go before someone else went in. It was really only men there during my time, and they are so gross. I remember this now. I used so much toilet paper lining the toilet seat because it had piss stains all over, and a lot of them weren't washing their hands, and there was no hand sanitizer and the things in the hallways to add extra germ protection. My guess is because they worry people would ingest it to hurt themselves. My brain and hand are getting tired, so I'll pick up another time on my first night Next time I wrote again was January 5th, 2023, on a Thursday, 3:12 p.m. Mom just went into physical therapy for her second knee surgery, so time to continue. So first night, insanely rough. Did I mention when we got there, a nurse took me to the bathroom to strip down to my underwear and gave me a gown. I wouldn't get my clothes back until I got up to the POU. I'm also glad I took a shower before we left because I did not take one while I was there. Thought I would, based on what my friend's experience was like, room with a roommate and shower a toilet in the room. It was not that. There was a digital clock in the room that illuminated the room pretty well, still even with lights off, and the outlets also had glowing dots on them. I'm glad it wasn't pitch black at least. Camera was in every room for them to keep an eye on people. I couldn't get comfortable and would go from cold to hot. Would maybe doze for 10 minutes and then something would wake me up. Those moms I mentioned, other people talking, at 3:15 a.m., the young gal I'd seen earlier that evening, who had one of the moms concerned about her being there, started crying and saying she wanted to leave, wanted her mom, yelled asking why no one was helping her. Eventually, she got too wound up and they had to restrain her. That was kind of jarring to hear. Spoiler, it happened to another person the second night, at which point it was more being thankful for ending the commotion than alarming. I don't know where they took her, but I never saw or heard her again. About 8 a.m., one of the guys my mom and I had first seen wandering the hallways started acting up, asking why he couldn't leave. Where was the court order saying they could hold him? Who signed it? That went on for like 5 to 10 minutes. I finally went to the bathroom when I couldn't hold it anymore. Was pretty hungry since I hadn't eaten since before we came to the hospital. I was so dead tired, no sleep, emotionally, physically, mentally exhausted. When breakfast came a little after 9, I set the tray on the bed in front of me and started crying. The white walls of the room, bright fluorescent lights, my gown, bracelet around my wrist, and my name and admit date, and the food delivered to me. It all just hit really hard. I am very sick. I am in the hospital. I am very sick. But I held out hope my situation and mental state would improve. I didn't eat much. Bland oatmeal, juice, eggs, a dry biscuit, maybe sausage? Can't remember. I kind of nibbled at everything. Set the tray along the wall on the floor when I was done. Cried some more, off and on during the day while watching TV. Mom had said she'd come visit me before the Chiefs played at 7 that night, so I was really hoping she'd come and still fell up to it. She came around 3, knocked on my door, and the instant I saw her, we both just started bawling. Hugged each other for a while. Felt so nice to be hugged and feel loved. She said the game was actually at 3:20, but she didn't care if she missed it. She barely slept either, hated that she had to leave me here the previous day, drank a whole bottle of wine, and cried a lot when she'd gotten home. And that is where I will leave for now. And I didn't pick it back up, but that's okay. It's still in my memory bank somewhere. My brain has kind of blocked it a bit. So reading this again, it's kind of wild to put me back there. Sometimes when I think about it, it gets really upsetting. Other times it's a laugh, like, was this real life? Did this really happen to me? So I just kind of wanted to film this to give a genuine look into what the state of our mental health care is. And I don't believe it's gotten better. It's unfortunate. And so that's where the organization, the Semicolon Society, kicks in. Because once you leave the hospital, they really do leave you on your own. And I want to not have that be the reality anymore. So from anywhere you can join the private Facebook group. Just check out the guidelines to see if you fit into the category of the shared trauma, I guess, or experience, the same lived experience, I guess, what we call it. It's facebook.com/groups/the Semicolon Society. And you can also see just more about us and donate if you like to at thesemicolonsociety.org. If you have any questions or if you have any, stories or comments or anything like that, please share them in the comment section or email me info@thesemicolonsociety.org. All one word. There's no hyphen in there. But I just felt compelled to record this as a kind of a little bit about me. And maybe it helps somebody. Maybe you're looking for what it's like to expect in a mental health stay. Maybe you're wondering, okay, what are the possibilities of coming out of a mental health crisis? What does happen? What can you do? And I want to show people, I want to be an example of what's possible. So if you made it to the end, thank you for watching. I would love to know what your thoughts are. Leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.